here. So please forgive me if some of this is super basic and you guys are like, duh, I understand this part, but I wanted to kind of format this for somebody who you've heard the word optometrist and maybe you know you've been to one, but what does it mean to be one? So your optometrist is your primary vision care provider, meaning, you know, this is your doctor who is going to not just check your vision and give you a your refraction and set you up for glasses and contacts, although that is a big part of what ODs do and make a really great living doing that. But your primary vision care provider does so much more than just glasses and contacts. And as an OD student, you'll be educated way beyond just finding a refractive error, but that is part of it. And terminology can get a little confusing or a little muddy sometimes. So you've heard optometrist, you've heard ophthalmologist, you've heard optician. What is the difference among those? What do they mean? So like I said, your optometrist or your OD, I may use those interchangeably. She or he is your primary vision care provider, meaning hopefully you see your OD at least once a year. To check your vision health and lots more that we'll touch on in just a little bit. Your ophthalmologist is a medical doctor, an MD, who specializes in, the visual system. Your ophthalmologist is also, or can be, a surgeon. There are some minor surgical procedures that an OD can do, and we'll talk about those in a little bit. But your ophthalmologist is much more considered your surgeon. If you have if you know someone who's had LASIK or cataract surgery, then she or he has been to an ophthalmologist as well as an optometrist, but the MD does the surgical part most all the time. And then your optician is the man or woman who works with both of those in multiple ways. So an optician is a certification program for an individual to get really frames and lenses, and most likely, when you've been to an optometrist, if you wear glasses, then the person who fit you with your glasses was either an optometric tech or an optician or both. And so the opticians are super important to help with the business side, with the setting, assisting with the glasses, and contact area delivery, let's say. There are only 23 schools of optometry in the US, and that includes Puerto Rico. So that's really not that many when you think about, compare that to pharmacy schools, compare it to med schools, to physical therapy programs. We do have 2 schools here in the state of Texas. Of course, there's us, and we're the best, But there is a fantastic school in San Antonio at the University of Incarnate Word Rosenberg School of Optometry, and they're our friends and our colleagues in many, many, many ways. So we're very supportive of them too. But yeah, so there's just not that many optometry schools in the country. Most of the optometry schools seat around 75 to 100 students each year. Some have a little bit more, some have as many as like 160, I think is the most. And then there's a school in Oklahoma that has 28, I believe, per class. So that's really small when you think about schools. But so yeah, there's a variety there as well. So in addition to those glasses and contacts that we were talking about, what does an optometrist do? What would your day be if you are an OD? So first and foremost, you are connecting with your patients. You're spending so much really great quality time getting to know who they are. And hopefully these are patients who come to see you every year. So you get to know them, you get to know their family, the community and communities in which you work. It's such a great field for people who have a passion for science and who really love that one-on-one interaction with folks. Not to say that ophthalmologists don't have that connection. You just have much more time and accessibility to patients as an OD. So yes, you're going to treat and diagnose disorders of the eye and the visual system. But there's even more. So it's possible that you may not have even known that a simple eye exam can reveal things such as diabetes, hypertension or high blood pressure, cancers are visualized and seen. Of course, diseases like glaucoma, different retinopathies. Our students diagnose and treat the widest realm of pathologies and diseases. They are amazingly trained. It is a medical school program. I'm here to tell you. People use the term med school for MDs, but this is definitely a medical school program. And we'll talk about specifics in just a little bit with that. Thank you, Tony. There's lots of ways to work. So if you've been to an OD, maybe you went to your OD's practice and she works, she's the only doctor there and she's got a team of great assistants and team staff members that make the business run and make everything happen. Maybe your OD works in what we call a group practice with 2 or 3 colleagues or more. We call it a co-managed practice when an OD works with an MD. And that is the type of practice that we're seeing grow. So that's, for example, like Houston Eye Associates here in Houston. Maybe you go see your OD you want to have LASIK, or you've got cataracts, or you need some assistance. Then the OD does the diagnosing, and then transfers you to the MD for the surgery. Then you're back to your OD for all the post-op care. So again, you spend a lot of time with your OD. Our professors, many of our professors here are ODs. Of all of those 23 schools that I mentioned, we have the most OD PhDs, meaning we've got the most faculty that are in the classroom teaching you who have great research experience. Some of them are world renowned, literally. They're known for their research and their work, and many of them are also ODs. So they understand why you need to know this research and why these theories and all these things that you're discussing, how they work in your day-to-day work as an OD. I mentioned research. You can work in research. There's so many different ways to utilize an OD degree. If you have military experience or you've thought about going into the military, you can be an optometrist in the military. And the minute you graduate from OD school, you are commissioned as a lieutenant, and you are a commissioned officer in the U.S. Armed Forces, and you would go and complete your service as a doctor in the military. It's a fabulous, fantastic way to work as an OD. Plus, you can get really great funding to help pay for optometry school along the way. But if there is a realm of the world that optometrists are not a part of, then I don't know what it is, because they're so engaged. And like I said, it's much more than just what's happening right here. It is a holistic education, because you need to know how your patients live, where they live, what their situations are, what are they eating, what sort of medications are they taking. All of that is going to affect their vision. And so it is a whole patient treatment. So your optometrist just does so much. It's really a fantastic field to go into. What do you need to do to be an optometrist? So you would get your OD degree. Now, of those 23 schools that we talked about, most do not require a completed bachelor's degree. They prefer it, and they are specifically looking for specific prereq courses along the way, but they don't require that you finish your bachelor's before you enroll in optometry school. We do require it. So here at UHCO, and there's about 5 or 6 of us, maybe a couple more, programs in the US that do require a bachelor's degree. But one really great thing about this field is you can have your bachelor's in any field. Students will ask me, when they come for advising, what should my major be? What should I get my degree in? And my answer is always, what do you love? What's your passion? What do you like to do? What do you want to spend 4 years learning about? It does not have to be biology. It doesn't have to be chemistry. If it's a science, then that's great, because you're probably going to take some of these prereq courses along the way, but it doesn't have to be. If your degree's in English, if it's in political science, if it's in music, we have students here who are art majors, who are music majors from undergrad. They just had to pick up specific prereqs in addition to. that degree. So a finished bachelor's degree, but it can be in any field. If you're a biology major, say here at University of Houston, you're going to take all of these prereqs as a part of your degree plan already, except maybe one. So being a biology major is a big plus for optometry school. Sometimes students will say, well, I want to major in something else to stand out, because you're going to see a lot of biology degrees. Maybe I want to do something else. That's fine, as long as you love it, as long as you enjoy it. Who wants to sit in a program and not like what you're doing? So get your degree in what you're passionate about. But you can see here our specific prereqs. And again, usually I'm talking about, here's why you should come to UHCO. And of course, I'm a little biased and partial, but everything that I want to cover today also covers what does it mean to become an OD. So Prereq courses here are very, very similar to prereqs at other programs across the country. The one class that I think may not be required, underline that, of a biology major is 3324 here at UH. It's just called Human Physiology. It's a junior level phys. It's this, why am I pointing to the screen? You can't see that. It's the bullet a little over halfway down that says junior senior level human phys. The more anatomy and physiology you can have, the better. Again, you're thinking, what? I'm going to be an optometrist. It's the eyes. It's everything. I promise. Your first semester of optometry school, you're going to have a human anatomy lab and lecture. You're going to have an advanced physiology lecture and lab. It's a full body thing. We want you to be educated and aware of everything in the body so that you know when things are affected, because I promise it's all connected. But you can see a list here of prereq classes that we're looking for. One of the things that Jewel or I are really glad to do for you at any time is talk with you about these classes and which ones in the catalog are most appropriate for what we're looking for. So if you take a little screenshot of this, or if I go on by and you didn't get a picture of it, don't worry. Just message me anytime and we'll talk about prereqs, we'll talk about classes, anything you want to know. But you can see we're looking for, biologies, chemistries, physics are really important. Your first 3 semesters, you're in optics courses, which are like graduate level physics, with light and refraction and all kinds of amazing things. Again, physiology, upper level biologies we're looking for. Got to have the stats, got to have psych because you're dealing with people. Definitely have the math. So it's a pretty well-rounded list of prereqs. But yeah. And then.
Excuse me, I have a question.
Yes, please. Yes, go right ahead.
Would you recommend like taking an internship before applying?
Meaning like getting experience shadowing?
Yeah.
or oh yes, I definitely recommend that. That's an excellent question.
Okay,
And that leads right into my next slide. So I'm so glad you asked that question. This says how to stand out as an applicant, and that is something I usually talk about. But each of these bullet points applies to what makes an optometrist. So this hopefully can tell you, how do I like these things? How do these bullet points apply to me? And yes, thank you. That's an excellent question about an internship or what we call shadowing, job experience. What we want to know when students apply to our program is, why do you want to be an optometrist? What have you experienced that makes you know this is my vocation? This is what I have a passion for. Because every now and then, we'll see someone apply and maybe they really wanted to be an MD, but they didn't get into med school. Or maybe they're doing this because, mama or daddy says they're supposed to do it. That's rare. Both of those are really rare. But we want to know that this is your desire. This is your passion, because you're about to spend, 4 years in a lot of classes. So we want to know what sort of experience at a practice, when you've shadowed, what all did you learn? And not just shadowing the OD, although that is a very important aspect, to ask those questions about, what are you seeing through the slit lamp? What does it mean when you do, refractive error? What does BIO stand for? How do you know that's glaucoma just from that little picture? How can you tell that this person has high blood pressure just from looking, at vision of their eyes. And those are things that you'll pick up when you're shadowing. But we also want you to spend time with the staff at a practice, and learn about the business. What is the patient flow like? How does a person of a different, ethnic or diverse background compare to someone else? Because it's eyeballs, but everybody is different, and so it's just those shadowing experiences will give you so much experience in the field. And that's what's really going to tell you, I love what the day-to-day is like here. I think it would be rare to find an optometrist who says, yeah, I just kind of see the same thing every day. They're going to tell you, I see a wide variety of people who come in. And so I'm, working with a baby who is, 9 months old. And then the next patient is, maybe an 87-year-old lady who has not seen a doctor in 15 years, and so you are diagnosing a lot of things. So getting that knowledge of the profession, and we like to know that students know what our program offers, and that's a little more in line with my regular presentation about why UHCO is the best, but things know about the program that you're applying to. It's great to experience and take what we call a full course load in undergrad, meaning, challenge yourself when you're putting your semesters together, because when you come to optometry school, you're going to be taking 20, 21, 22 hours per semester of, graduate level math and science. And we don't want anybody to be just completely shocked and appalled, that they're now having to juggle that many classes. So we like to see, a full challenging course load. We want to know who you are outside of optometry, because that is a big part of being an OD is, what's your life outside of work? Optometrists have a really, really great work-life balance. That's, of course, an important thing to think about when you're thinking about your career is, how much time am I going to be at work as opposed to having a life and being at home? Now, in optometry school, life is a little, less happening. Sometimes you do have a life and you do have, friends and family, but you're spending a lot of time studying. So you're looking down the line at what is my life going to be when I get out of school. We love to see applicants and our current students who have a passion for service, who have a desire to be leaders, who have a real yen for working with one another. Because you think group work and you think, that's school, yes, I'll work in a group in school. When you get out in the field, you're going to have colleagues, and we still see our graduates, post in their class Facebook groups, hey guys, I had a patient today who presented with this. What do you guys think this is? Or what do you recommend? So they're still working together, and sharing, asking for help and sharing what their days are. Letters of rec, yes, we're looking for recommendations. And of course, those are going to come from the ODs that you're shadowing and from professors that you're taking those prereq classes with. I put passion, grit, and integrity in blue here because I want it to stand out. Yes, we want applicants and students with strong academics, that's important. It definitely is. But we want strong people and people who've come from different backgrounds. And maybe you've been out of school for a while and you're changing careers. Those people come with the most amazing experiences and maturity a lot of times. And so we want to know if you've overcome obstacles, because again, these are things that are going to apply to you as an OD. How are you going to work with your patients and with your colleagues and with your staff and team? So all of these are important for optometry school, but they're going to apply when you get out as well. I have research experience on here. You don't have to have research experience, but here in our program, and we'll touch on this again in a bit, there's a lot of great opportunity for getting involved in research. And when I say research, if you can think of any area of vision related research, it's probably happening here. We are among the top 3, and of course, I'm going to say we're number 1 research institutions when it comes to vision sciences. So it's a great opportunity to get involved in that side as well. But you don't have to have research experience. It's just a plus. Any other questions, guys? Thank you again for that question. Anybody got one? Tony? Okay, stop me anytime. Okay, we're gonna keep on rolling. So now just a little bit as I tie it to, what ODs do and is this career right for you? And we'll talk a little bit about our program and how we mold our students into the ODs that they become. Of course, we're here on the campus. I hope you recognize the building. If you're looking at this picture, just to the left is the Rec Center. So that kind of gives you an idea of where we are here on campus. You may not have even known that we had an eye institute on campus, and I'm so glad that you're learning that today. Everything on the right side of this picture is the J. Davis Armistead building, and we've been here since '76. And we have our University Eye Institute here. I'm going to skip ahead and talk a little bit about that. It's open to you. It's open to you today. We're seeing patients. You'll be treated by current student clinicians who are third and fourth year right now. When it's spring, there'll be second years in there as well. And our ODs who are staff, who are our staff optometrists. So please come see us if you need an eye exam, and everybody does. It's so great to be a part of the Med Center area. We see the most diverse, amazing patients in the world. I like to say that, people from all over the world live in Houston, so people from all over the world come here for their eye exams. And you can be doing those. Our students start their clinical experiences in year 2. It is a 4-year program, and you'll start seeing patients spring of second year. And all of the semesters leading up to that are prepping you not just for the science and the knowledge of being an OD, but prepping you for those patient encounters. And so you have a lot of practice getting ready to do what our students, our student doctors, our student clinicians do. You can see different specializations in areas that our curriculum and clinical education cover there. In addition, our students work in the community because, again, optometrists are located everywhere. When you're thinking about this as a career, think about where you want to live. Where do you want to work? Do you want to live in downtown Houston and work in downtown Houston? Could be a little tough to be an OD in downtown Houston because there's a lot of them already. But I'm here to tell you that in rural America, even just outside of Houston, just outside of any large city, ODs are needed. This is a field where there's still job growth. There's still job availability. It's a really fantastic field, and there are plenty of jobs available. And many of our students start their own practice when they get out. I'd say the majority of our grads, start work as an associate at an already established practice. They're hired on as an associate, and then maybe they eventually become a partner. They buy into the practice. Maybe they start, maybe they run the entire practice eventually. But then we certainly have some who do what we call a cold opening. And when they get out of school, they take out a little more loans and they open their own practice right away. It's very doable, but getting engaged in the community. So we have community-based external clinics. We call them external just because they're not here on the main campus, but they're very much a part of our program. 2 in Houston, 1 in Dallas, and 1 in Fort Worth. One really great thing about Hope Clinic, for example, Hope is in the Bel Air area of Houston. Some of you may know it already. They have the ability to treat patients in 20 languages. So talk about diversity and being able to serve the most amazing patients who live in Houston, who I love. Some of that, a portion of that is teletranslation, but they have practitioners there who speak so many different languages. It's really wonderful. And we're in the community in multiple ways. You may have seen the bus around campus or seen the bus around the city. So optometrists are really active in philanthropic endeavors, in volunteering their time and expertise, no matter where they're located, and reaching to communities, reaching out. The Mobile Eye Institute here at the MEI, as of last week and the week before, had gone over to Louisiana to help with Hurricane Laura. Areas where people needed eye care, but for whatever reason couldn't get to their practices. So it's just a really excellent opportunity to outreach. Optometrists are again educated in just a really wide range of the field, so that you're as well prepared as possible. You'll have you'll learn injectables. You'll have, you will draw blood. Sometimes people say, yeah, I want to be an optometrist because I don't like blood. Well, let me tell you, there's a little bit of blood in optometry. Don't be totally scared of blood. You'll draw blood. Some drugs, some pharmaceuticals are administered intravenously. And so you do have to learn how to, stick a needle. There are some procedures that are done like right here under the eye. And so you will have a lab partner with a needle right here underneath your eye. Don't be scared. You'll have a lot of practice before then. They don't make you do it until third year. But again, lots of preparation to be the best prepared OD that you can be. We have laser lab work, laser coursework to treat and to perform some minor surgical procedures in and around the eye. Here in our program, those are practiced on bunnies because in the state of Texas, an optometrist is not licensed to perform these procedures on humans. Now, that doesn't mean that you can't do them in another state, and that doesn't mean that eventually optometrists will be licensed. Optometry is what we call a legislative profession, meaning that the laws of the state or states in which you eventually practice determine what your scope of practice is, what you can do as an OD. There are some states that have what we call the largest scope of practice. Kentucky, Louisiana, Oklahoma are some of those. So we're fortunate to be right next to Louisiana because we have fourth year students who travel just over the state line, and they practice these laser procedures that they've learned on humans, but in Louisiana because the state allows it. You'll have a full pharmacological preparation. You have a general pharmacology. You'll have an ocular pharmacology. Again, optometrists are extremely well educated and extremely well prepared to treat anything that comes in their office. But even so, some ODs just don't choose to, maybe work or treat certain issues that may show up. So they will refer, to an ophthalmologist if it is looking like it's going to be more of a surgical need. But you have the preparation to do so. Our students are extremely, they work a lot with technology. So in addition to all of the living, breathing, live patients that you'll see down in the University Eye Institute, you work with virtual patients here in our simulation lab, starting spring of first year all the way to the semester that you graduate in fourth year. You will work through different simulated cases. The coolest thing about these simulators, it's all human subjects that are in there. It's not just pictures or videos. It's real eyes looking back at you and real pathologies, real situations that you have to diagnose and decide what the treatment is. So you get to practice a lot. This is a very hands-on profession. And so it's a very hands-on education as well. So lots and lots of practice time. I mentioned anatomy earlier. Please take a lot of anatomy. Please take a lot of physiology. You will be glad that you did. One of our newest technology that we're really excited about, we have two Anatomage virtual dissection tables. So again, as optometry students are preparing for the field, you're learning that full body education. Like I said, we do have some human cadaver work. Again, don't let that turn you off of optometry if that freaks you out a little bit. You don't have to prepare the cadavers. They are prepared for you, but they are laid out so that you can identify and see things. But with these new amazing tables, there are 4 fully digitized real human cadavers in the tables, so you can zoom in. It's like a really big iPad. You can zoom in, dissect, take screenshots. You can bring a jump drive in, a little USB, and take screenshots. You can take notes on the bodies. It's just the greatest way to study anatomy. It's the coolest, really interactive thing. A little bit about our student body, like who are we and who are our students and who are these people becoming optometrists. So here in our program, our class is between 100 and 104 every year. So we have around 400 students at any given time enrolled in our program. Our first year class is the class of 24 right now. They just started last month. You can kind of see here some of the numbers that they brought in. We don't have a minimum GPA or a minimum OAT, that's the optometry admissions test score that you have to take to apply. We love and appreciate and want every applicant that we get. We review all applicants and give you feedback for sure. But you can kind of see we're looking for pretty strong academics. So around a 3.5 is the average that this first year class brought in. Remember though, that's from lots of different degrees. They're all bachelor's degrees, but lots of different fields, mostly science, mostly biology, biochem, chemistry, but a wide variety for sure. And they're from all over the country. When you look at our program right now, we have students from 33 different schools. Before I go to that slide, I wanted to point out the last little bullet here. About 60-40 female to male. That is true for the profession right now. I would say if you asked any optometry school there, it is probably around that same percentage. And that's for different reasons. I hate to say this because it always sounds a little bit sexist, but you know, an optometrist can have a family, can have a home life, regardless if man or woman, anything. It's a great field for establishing your family and for having a life outside of optometry, you know, outside of the work that you're doing. And they're needed all over the country. So it's a really, really great field, no matter who you are, for many reasons. But when you look at our program, 33 states and Canada right now. So these are folks that, you know, are here in Houston, here in our program. We have alums, we have grads living and working in all 50 states and Canada and beyond. So you can't go anywhere and not run into a UHCO cougar for your eye exam. But it's great to have students from all over, because these are colleagues that, again, remember that group work we talked about. When you're out working and in the field, these are folks you're going to have as resources to connect with, to ask questions of, all the way to Alaska and Hawaii. I was thrilled last year when Paige was the first year I could color in Alaska for the first time since I've been here. So that's really exciting to me. Again, our ODs are really involved in service, you know, getting engaged in the community where you are, being an active person making a difference in that community. So our students are really, really involved in different service organizations while they're here that we hope continue into the field. I'm going to kind of skip through. I would be glad to send you a breakdown of our curriculum. And of course, you can find that on the UH website as well. But I've got a cute little handout that I'd be glad to send you as well if you're interested into what each semester entails. We talked internships or shadowing before optometry school. Part of our education, part of the fourth year, are what we call externships. And you're out in practices, seeing patients all day long, every day. You're still enrolled in hours because those doctors of optometry in those practices, they're your professors for those semesters. They are adjunct faculty here, and so they're teaching you, they're giving you some assignments. So you're still in classes, but you are seeing patients all over the country for these externships. A residency for optometry is not required. Again, if you're comparing, you know, an optometrist with an ophthalmologist, your ophthalmologist almost certainly completed, you know, a residency in visual systems and vision care in ophthalmic areas. And an optometrist does not have to complete a residency, but one could. You certainly could decide to spend one more year seeing what we call special population patients. Meaning for that 1 year, you are seeing patients in one of these areas all day, every day. And about third or fourth year of the program, you would know, you know, is a residency right for me? You know, depends on how you want to practice and what you want to do with your degrees. But certainly there are residency opportunities. We have students who are involved in research. Like I said, you can be getting your 4-year Doctor of Optometry degree and being involved in research and research programs that lead you to a master's degree as well. So in that same 4 years time, you can get your OD and your MS, and the master's degree is totally funded. So you actually, the first 16 of the 30 hours for that master's program, you make a nice little stipend over the summer as you're working with us. And then the rest of the time, it is a funded program also. So for no extra dollars, you're getting your Master of Science as well. And speaking of dollars, when you think about this career, what do you want to do? How do you want to use your science knowledge? Optometry is a really great choice financially as well. I know $26,000 a year for a Texas resident sounds like a whole lot, and it is. I'm not saying it's not. When you compare us to the other 23 schools, there are only 2 that have a little bit lower cost than we are, and that is if you are awarded scholarships in those states. Well, one, you have to be an Oklahoma resident. But the other is a scholarship program. So we are, again, the best education for the lowest cost. And that's important. You're not going to be a better practitioner just because you pay more money for it. So you're looking at med school, you're looking at dental school, you're looking at different careers. Think about how much debt you're going to have when you get out of school and you start these careers. Yes, you're going to be making a nice salary. For an optometrist, an average starting salary is probably from like 90,000 to 150. I know that's a big range, but around 100,000 is kind of a good number to say. Depends on what area of the country you're working and what your position actually is with the company that you join. So yes, you'll be paying back these loans because you'll be making some nice money, but think about that. That is something to keep in mind as you get out into the field. You don't want to have so much loans that you are not hireable necessarily, or that it's going to take you forever to pay back. So there are scholarships definitely available for our students. That doesn't stop when you get out of undergrad. There's scholarships, there's grant funding that's available to Texas residents. So there's lots and lots of ways to fund your education. I know I skipped things, but I wanted to kind of move it along so that we could have time for questions. What's on your mind, guys? What can I answer? What things are you thinking about the field? I'm going to unshare the screen so I can see you guys also.
Just a reminder that you can either unmute or put your questions in the chat box, whichever you prefer.
Yeah, ask away, folks. You're welcome to ask me now or ask me later. That's my contact info there. You can email me. That first number is my cell phone. I put my cell number first and foremost because I do travel in a normal world for the school. And even if I'm working remotely, text me, call my cell. That's what I do. That's why it's there. And then the second number is my office number. So you can reach out to me anytime. Again, when the world is normal, you can come see us, here for a tour, we can meet in my office and talk more. Right now, we're having to limit the number of people who are in the building. So it is limited just really to staff and faculty and students here, plus patients. So we are certainly treating patients, but I can't, have my guests here like I usually love to have. Again, in a normal world, come by anytime and we can do a tour and we'll talk anything you want to know. If you want to connect with current optometry students, there's multiple ways to do that. UH has a really, really good pre-optometry student org. It's called POPS. Pre-Optometric Professional Society is what that stands for. You can join POPS. You can come to the meetings even if you don't join POPS. You can find us on Facebook. You can find us on the UH website. They have a really nice website that our officers keep. We meet twice a month. Everything is online right now. So like we had a meeting last night And the recruitment guy from San Antonio gave a little presentation. So you learn about different programs, and we bring in optometrists to talk about what her day-to-day is, what kind of patients he saw that day. So it's just a really great opportunity to learn more. If you want to connect with current students, you can let me know. And, I'll be glad to share some email addresses with some of our students, because again, one of the things they do is service. And part of that service is, sharing information about optometry and about this program. So they know I give out their email addresses all the time. Any questions, guys? I'm gonna shut up.
We do have a question in the chat.
Awesome.
So in the program, you take into account degree, GPA, as well as prereq GPA. How important is that with being accepted into the program?
That's a really good question, because again, like I try to say, it's not all about the numbers, but it is a lot about the numbers. We definitely want to see more than just your academics, but that is the first thing that is reviewed, and that's really important because this is a very rigorous program. And so, our faculty that are on our admissions committee, they really want to know that you've got a solid foundation in sciences. So yes, they're going to look at your overall GPA. They're going to look at those OAT scores. They're going to look at just the like you said, the prereq GPA, which means when I get your application, I actually pull out the classes that satisfy those prereqs, and that makes its own little GPA. They're going to look at your upper level sciences. They're going to look at your junior or senior level courses. In addition to, did you work during school? Did you, volunteer? Did you shadow? And a student who maybe has a little bit lower GPA than, let's say, 3.5, but you held down 2 full-time jobs, or you were a caregiver for, a grandparent. And, that's very important, and it's a big part of who you are. And it can sometimes affect your grades. That is not going to be held against you. It's actually a plus. It's actually a plus. You still got to have the strong academics. We want you to have that solid preparation, but there's not a number that they say, no, this person doesn't have the grade. No, they're going to look and see what all led to that grade. Why is your GPA what it is? Where did you go to school? How much, if any, community college work do you have? And speaking of, it is fine to have some of your courses from a community college. We want you to have the majority, if not all, of your prereqs from a university level. One, because again, we just want you to be as well prepared as possible. But two, it factors into your competitiveness as an applicant. But that's not to say that community college courses are easy or not important. We both know that they're very challenging. So that's just something to keep in mind as well. Again, guys, you can email me, you can text me anytime. So if you think of questions this afternoon, if you think of questions tomorrow, when you see other presentations, and I hope you will join the awesome folks from Career Services for more presentations as you're comparing these fields, which is totally what you should be doing. If something occurs to you, well, in dental school, they do this. What do they do about that in optometry school? Let me know. Ask me, and I'll get you an answer. If it's something I don't know, then I need to have that question so that I can learn it too. So please ask me anytime.
We do have another question in the chat.
Okay.
How many shadowing hours would you recommend?
So for shadowing hours, some schools will give you a number. Like the rep from San Antonio last night, I heard him say they require a minimum of 20 shadowing hours. We do not have a number. I can tell you 20. I can tell you 100. What we're looking for is enough so that you can speak knowledgeably about what you're going into. What I like to recommend is a variety of shadowing. So we talked about different ways that optometrists practice, and we'll call those different modalities. So let's say you shadow, a few days or a couple weeks with an optometrist who works in a co-managed OD/MD practice. Then maybe you shadow with an optometrist who works in what we call a corporate practice, meaning maybe a Target Optical or a Walmart Vision. And then maybe you have some experience with a doctor who also works for a corporate company, but it's like a Today's Vision. You've probably seen these around Houston. Today's Vision, TSO stands for Texas State Optical. Those doctors own their own franchises. So, Dr. Jones, she works for, a TSO, but it's her practice. It's the same education. It's just the way they're using their degrees, how they're choosing to practice. So we love to see that variety in your shadowing, because that gives you much more of an idea of how you want to use your degrees, because you can compare and contrast and say, the patient flow was just different, when I was shadowing at the Target Optical versus when I was with this private practice. And there are limitations on what doctors who work in a corporate field are able to do, because again, remember, the company owns that practice. So a variety is good. I honestly can't tell you a number. I have seen applicants who worked at a practice and had hundreds and hundreds of hours who did not have the same knowledge and preparation as someone who maybe shadowed for 40 hours at a couple different types of practices. So it's much more the quality than the quantity.
While you are thinking about your other additional questions that you want to ask, I just wanted to say that today's recording will be shared on the UCS YouTube channel. So I shared that in the link, so you can subscribe to that, or you can bookmark it to come back later if there was something that you wanted to refresh yourself on. Then I'll also be sharing a link to our survey so you can share feedback with us today. But by all means, we still have 8 minutes together to ask other questions.
I would like to put in a plug also. One thing, again, if you're obviously, and you are considering optometry, and I'm thrilled about that, next week, it's over there. Next week, there is an event hosted by ASCO, and that's the Association of Schools and Colleges of Optometry. That's sort of the parent company of all 23 schools. It is an online virtual informational fair. And I'll send a link to this to Jamie. Is that okay if I send it to you, Jamie? And can you share it with the folks that were here today? It's free to attend. They do ask that you register just so they can keep numbers, but you log on whenever you want to throughout the day and visit with folks like me from all 23 schools. So you can ask these great questions of anybody at another school. You may, maybe you're thinking, I want to go to school outside of Texas and optometry sounds fascinating, but what is optometry school like in California? What's it like in Missouri or down in Florida? So you can connect with reps from different schools. We all have different chat hours, they're called. Hours, we have a couple hours in the morning and a couple hours in the afternoon. So I'll send a note of that. I'm going to send Jamie that link to share with you guys. And it's a really great opportunity to just learn more and connect with reps from all of the schools. It's called the ASCO Virtual Fair.
That sounds great. So we just had another question come in.
Awesome.
So what do you require and how do you document shadowing hours?
Okay, good question. Here's what I recommend. As you're shadowing, as you're getting these experiences, keep a notebook. Keep a notebook, and every day that you shadow, when you get home, write down what you did that day and note the number of hours that you shadowed. We're not going to ask to see that, But when you're completing your application for optometry school, and that's one thing, you apply to optometry school through a CAS, a centralized application service. So you do the application once, and then you choose the school or schools you want it to go to. Makes it really handy for you and for us. You're going to enter all of these experiences shadowing wise. And so if you've got a nice little log, you can tally it up. You can see the things you've experienced and that you learned. And it just makes it really handy for you. We're going to take what you tell us. If you tell us I've shadowed, 42 hours at this practice, and these are the things I experienced, we're going to review that and probably ask you, not probably, we'll ask you about it in your interview, but we're not going to ask you to prove it. Maybe some optometry schools do. Maybe they want you to show a signed letter. I don't know of a school that does. So really, it's just kind of up to you to keep up with it and then tell us. But I would strongly recommend keep a little tally, keep a log, so that you're not having to think back and go, oh, laws, how many hours was I here? Oh, look, I can count it up, and then there it is for you.
We had 2 more questions in the chat. So one of them is about when do applications open to apply?
So every College of Optometry's application opens July 1 each summer, and then the applications close depending on the school. So our cycle is July 1 through March 31st for that following fall. So like right now, we are near the beginning of the 2021 application cycle, and we are reviewing applications, holding interviews, admitting students to begin optometry school August of 2021.
Great, and I'll put that application link for UHCO in the chat. And so you mentioned that having a major that you're passionate about is important when studying for undergrad, but does being a bio major hinder your chances when applying to optometry school of that major?
I promise it doesn't. I know I said that, like, hey, I want to stand out with a different major. I mean, that is one way to delineate, is that the right word, to stand out a little bit with a different major, but I promise it's not a negative. It's a big positive to be a bio major, because you're going to take all of these classes, and that's going to lead to your preparation for our program. It's not a bad thing at all. Not at all. It's just, I want you to have your degree in something that you're passionate about, as opposed to saying, well, I know I want to go to optometry school, so I've got to have a biology degree. You don't.
And I think there are professionals like us on campus. So if you're a biology major, but you are thinking like, okay, so if I know that biology is a popular major, and how do I stand out with my personal statement, or what opportunities could I get involved in? But you want to process that with someone else. Like I said, our professionals are here. You can set up appointments with us, and we're happy to help you kind of brainstorm and think about what are those ways that I can stand out. But great
Definitely.
question.
That's a great answer too for that, for sure. And one of those ways to stand out is the courses that you choose. You're going to complete your biology degree, but remember, we have prereqs. Let's say 8 hours of those junior senior level biologies. One of those needs to be 3324. You can put together with whatever fits you. So choosing neuroscience, choosing immunology, molecular bio, those challenging upper level courses can definitely help you stand out, because you're going to have enough hours as a bio major to satisfy the prereqs. But then remember, we want to see that you challenged yourself and that you took these extra classes to help stand out. You have a neuroanatomy course first year in optometry school, so a neuroscience course is a really good foundation to have.
Great questions, everyone. We probably have time for one more. If not, I'm going to put our survey in the chat again. Just if you can click on that, it would only take a few minutes to fill out, and gives us some great feedback on what other type of workshops like this would you like to see in the future. But yeah, one final question? If anybody has anything else, you can feel free to unmute yourself or put it in the chat. And you were so efficient, Lyle, that
Look at that 11. Bam.
All right. So it doesn't look like we have any other questions. So we want to thank Lyle for being here today and presenting all of this great information. It seems like you all had great questions. Again, this will be shared out. The information that Lyle offered, he'll send that to me, and so we'll send that to everyone who attended today. Yeah, if you want to set up a career counseling appointment with UCS, you can do that through Kruger Pathway that you can access through U of H. So we would love to talk about you and how you're prepping for grad school and all of these additional explorations. So thank you all so much for being here today.